So today, as of writing this, the kickoff press conference took place for the comeback of Errol Spence Jr., where he'll be fighting Tszyu in Australia in July. This is Errol's first fight since he was stopped in the 9th round against Terence Crawford nearly 3 years ago, back in July 2023. And I know it's very early, but this fight has been floating around for a while now, and as of right now, Errol Spence is a favorite in the odds, at least on Sky Betting, and I see quite a few people picking Errol to win easily. But in my opinion, I think this could be a big mistake for Errol Spence, and honestly, I think Tszyu is gonna beat the brakes off of Errol Spence, which is what I'm gonna talk about in this video. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe because there's plenty of videos I have planned for the future, and if you agree or disagree with me, let me know down in the comments below. My name is Chelsea, and this is why Tszyu beats Errol Spence. Let's start off by explaining how this fight came to be in the first place. Errol Spence won his first world title by picking up the IBF welterweight title by stopping Kell Brook in the 11th round back in 2017 in a competitive fight, and he defended 3 times against former champ Lamont Peterson, then against Ocampo, and then in a big fight against Mikey Garcia. He'd get his first unification bout against the WBC champion Sean Porter at the Staples Center in September 2019, where he'd win a split decision in a very good competitive fight, where Errol scored a big knockdown in the 11th round to seal the fight. Unfortunately, after this, Errol would get in a very bad car accident in October 2019. Thankfully, despite the severity of the wreck, it was reported that Spence miraculously did not break any bones or suffer any fractures, but did suffer lacerations on his face. Errol would be out of the ring for nearly 14 months following the wreck, but he would return in late 2020 to win a decision over the 2-division champ and former unified champion Danny Garcia. At the time, this answered a lot of questions like, would Errol be the same after the accident? And in 2021, it was announced he'd fight Manny Pacquiao in a massive fight scheduled for August. However, the fight never came to be because Errol suffered a very bad eye injury in sparring leading up to the fight. The injury was a torn retina in his left eye, and for those who don't know, a torn retina is one of the most severe injuries a boxer can sustain, and it can end some fighters' careers. So the fight was cancelled, and the WBA champion Ugas stepped in to fight Manny, and he beat him by decision. He underwent surgery and would return in April 2022 to beat Ugas by stopping him in round 10 to become the unified WBA, WBC, and IBF welterweight world champion. Then, the fight we all remember happened in July 2023, where he'd fight the WBO champion Terence Crawford for the undisputed welterweight title. I remember at the time this was such a 50-50 fight, but a lot of people were concerned about Errol making weight again because he'd been making that weight his whole career, and that has to take a toll, and he looked kind of drained at the weigh-in. But he made the weight, and the fight took place, and it was really bad for Errol. Crawford absolutely bludgeoned Spence for 9 rounds until it was stopped, and in my opinion, it should have been stopped earlier. He knocked Errol down 3 times, and there's no shame in losing to Crawford, but this beating obviously was not good for him in the long run. He hasn't fought since, and by the time the Tszyu fight happens, it'll have been 1,099 days since he last fought. As for Tszyu, he won his first title when he was elevated to the WBO super welterweight champion when Charlo vacated all his belts when he fought Canelo in September 2023. He defended the title once against Brian Mendoza until he fought Sebastian Fundora in March 2024 in a unification, but Fundora was a late replacement on 12 days' notice after Keith Thurman, who was the original opponent, pulled out due to an injury. I don't know if I could think of a worse opponent to be a short notice replacement than a 6'6" southpaw like Fundora. A lot of people think this was the fight that changed Tszyu, as this fight was literally a bloody mess. Tszyu got cut above his forehead at the end of round 2, causing a massive gash to bleed down into his face and into his eyes for the rest of the fight. And Fedora would get his nose broken in the second round too. Like, this is a screenshot from round 3. This fight was madness. The two would go back and forth for the rest of the fight, and Fedora would win to become the unified WBC WBO Super Welterweight Champion. I know you can't judge much by the first 2 rounds of a fight, but Tszyu dominated round 1, and although Fedora had some success with the jab in round 2, Tszyu was landing the right hand basically at will and broke Fedora's nose in the second. You can't help but wonder, if Tszyu never got cut, maybe things would have been different and Tszyu would have won. Tszyu is slated to fight Virgil Ortiz on the Crawford-Madrimov card, but the fight was cancelled because Tszyu's cut wouldn't be healed by then, which proves how bad of an injury it was. But he finally got a fight booked in October against the IBF champion Bakram Muratsaliev. I remember when this fight happened, and from what I remember, virtually no one was picking Muratsaliev to win. And I know I said that some people say the first Fedora fight was the fight that changed Tszyu, but this was the one that really did it. Muratsaliev beat the shit out of Tszyu, knocking him down 4 times and stopping him in the 3rd round. To give credit where credit is due, Tszyu got up every time. There was no quit in him at all that night. I'm pretty sure in this fight Tszyu had like PTSD from the cut because he was dabbing his head a few times thinking the cut reopened. Tszyu had a soft comeback fight in early 2025 before getting another title shot in July on the Manny Pacquiao-Mario Barrios card, where he'd fight Fedora in a rematch for his WBC title. Tszyu got dominated, knocked down in the first round, and although he had some success with his right hand like in the first fight, Fedora just took it and came forward, and Tszyu made the wise decision to retire from the fight after the 7th round. Tszyu has won 2 fights since the Fedora rematch coming into the Spence fight, and from that description of the 2 fighters, you might be wondering why I'm picking Tszyu, but I'll explain that right now. The reason I think Spence will lose to Tszyu is activity. Errol hasn't fought in 3 years, and within that time, Tszyu has fought 7 times. Granted, he's lost 3 times within those 7 fights, and has been stopped twice, but he's been fighting more consistently and been in the gym more. And yes, he's got a new trainer for this fight, but I don't really think that'll play a big factor in this fight, because I'm pretty sure Errol Spence will also have a new trainer, because I think he's parted ways with longtime trainer Derek James. In his 2 fights since losing to Fedora in the rematch, he's looked a lot quicker and more defensively responsible. He's learning from the losses, and he's clearly improving as a fighter. He's also getting better with straight punches and is quicker on the counter than he used to be, and the uppercut is looking good too. Now, there can be the argument that these fights were against a lower level of opposition, which would be correct, and that Tim hasn't changed his ways of being a bit of a static target, and he's changed that a bit, but he still hasn't fixed his lack of head movement. The purpose of these fights is to build back confidence and to practice new skills in real fight situations. Spence, on the other hand, hasn't fought once in the past 3 years. Errol's a great fighter, but no fighter can have a good performance after 3 years of not fighting since getting battered the way he did in Crawford, plus all the injuries like the eye and the car crash stuff, and years of killing himself to make 147. I know this is at like a 155-pound catch weight or something like that. Tszyu is a good fighter, and very underrated, and sure he has flaws, but he's capable, and actively improving, and way more active than Errol Spence Jr. I do want to play devil's advocate a bit in this video, and explore how Errol Spence can win this fight, even if I do think it's unlikely. The advantages Errol has in this fight is his experience, the fact he's a southpaw, and his body shots. Errol has fought much better competition than Tszyu in his career, and has had more success against better opposition like Porter, Garcia, Ugas, and Crawford, despite losing to him and losing basically every round. The fact Spence is a southpaw will also help because, aside from Fedora, Tszyu has not fought any southpaws in his pro career, or at least any notable ones. All his big wins, like Tony Harrison, Brian Mendoza and Jeff Horn, they were all orthodox fighters. The times he fought he good southpaw, he lost. But that southpaw was Fundora, and Fundora and Errol Spence are like polar opposites both stylistically and in size. Errol Spence has among the best body shots in boxing over the past few years. He's up there with Canelo and Inoue. While I think Tszyu will win, I do want to make one thing clear. A prime Errol Spence, like the one that fought Porter or Gani Garcia, would stop this version of Tszyu. But even the prime Errol Spence that fought those guys, he got hit clean pretty consistently. While I think Spence's body shots can cause Tszyu trouble, and the fact he's a southpaw can be a bit tricky for Tszyu, I just think that the inactivity, all the injuries, and the years of making 147, and the beating he took to Crawford will all catch up to him, and I think Tszyu will win a late stoppage or a decision. I do think it can be a bit competitive early on because of the experience Errol has. I just think Tszyu will still beat him. Even though it's not a very good comparison, if we were to take the fighters from their last performances, Tim would stop Errol. Tszyu isn't the best fighter in the world, but is a good fighter, and very capable of beating Errol Spence. That's if this fight even takes place, because I have a bit of a feeling this fight will get cancelled, because how many times have we heard of an Errol Spence comeback in the past few years? The only difference here is, well, it's official and there's a press conference. And that is the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe because there's plenty of videos I have planned for the future, and if you disagree with me and think Errol Spence will win, I would love to hear it in the comments, so feel free to let me know. I've been Chelsea Loves Fighting, and until next time, leave me alone.